I'll just welcome everyone. For those of you who don't know me, my name's Mike Rudge. I'm the current chair of ITS New Zealand. We are going to proceed with our AGM, or as much of it, until the Minister arrives, and then we will return to the AGM. We have a so the first thing I'm going to do is ask for any apologies. Take that as that there are no apologies. We do have one paper to vote on this time. So Simon, I'm going to just ask you to sort of talk about how we're going to do the voting for that, and then we'll go from there.
Okay, so let's go straight to that. In the webinar chat function, you'll find a number of links to documents that we're sharing for the AGM today. The very first document link that's shared there is proposed changes to membership pricing and benefits. And there's a link through to that document so that you can see that. What we are in effect proposing is to formalise a few changes to the membership benefits. We've been offering these benefits without formalising them over the past 9 to 12 months, and we wanted to formalise those so that the value is able to be communicated to prospective members. And additionally, we are looking to increase the price for bronze members from $500 per annum to $750 per annum, and that is based on specific benefits which are now available to bronze members. So there's a couple of key things there that you'll see within the document. Key things being that they can now organise webinars with ITS New Zealand hosting. There are some limitations on that, so it can't be just a sales pitch, obviously. It needs to be an informative webinar concept. However, we are now working with our bronze members to do that, and you may have attended some of those webinars we've hosted this year. The most recent one perhaps being the Liftango on-demand webinar, or demand responsive transport webinar, as it was titled. So those kind of benefits have now been available to bronze members, and we wanted to formalise that so that people, as I say, who are prospective members can see that those benefits are available to them, and that will help them to make their mind up on joining, we hope. The other benefit is that we are now featuring all bronze member logos on the membership page. So previously we just listed our bronze members. We're now giving them a little bit of extra exposure on that membership page so that anybody who visits and looks for our members can find the bronze members listed there with their logos. And so that's giving them extra marketing exposure there as well. On top of that, for everybody, of course, there's increased value through the work that we've been doing. So the increased scale of TTEC, which has doubled in size since we last set membership pricing. The increase in general events, which Mike will discuss later today, and obviously the communications associated with events and news, our engagement with the sector and wider transport industry has vastly increased as well. So we see member benefits being, those specific benefits, but also additional benefits. And as we have not adjusted the pricing of memberships, we've decided to do that for bronze members in particular. So I'm going to launch a poll.
You explain how the poll will work, and then I'm going to ask Armin, who is our membership committee chair, just to make any further comments, and then I'll open it up for any questions.
Great. So you should all see that there's a poll being launched within Zoom now. I am going to wait till after the webinar to collate all those answers or responses, because it will tie to your membership, your current membership level as well. You should be familiar that you have different voting or different number of votes based on your membership level. I can see some votes coming in already, so that's excellent. I'll just leave that running throughout today's proceedings.
Just
Mike,
wondering
back
whether.
to you.
Yeah. Okay. Armin, do you want to make any further comments on that? And if so, if not, we can just open it up for any questions before we move on to other items in the agenda.
Just wanted to say it looks like there is quite a strong direction on that. So thanks for the opportunity to comment, but I will abstain on any further comments until we've ended the voting process.
Cool. So next item on the agenda, then we'll just, Simon, if you can share the minutes of the previous AGM.
Okay, so I have done that in the chat function as well.
Yep. But
hopefully people can see that.
You can share them on the screen. I think it would be good.
I think we've got a question from Blair. He just raised his hand.
Blair.
It was just on the voting. Sorry, I didn't want to interrupt, but just the voting disappeared for me.
Okay.
Can you see them now?
Yeah. So I'll just give people a few moments to read the minutes. I don't think there's anything controversial in them. You scroll down a little bit. Okay, I think that's long enough. Anybody want to raise any issues with the minutes? Can I have someone move that they be accepted?
I second them to be accepted.
Right. All in favour? Well, basically, I'm going to ask anyone against them being accepted. Any matters, I'll take them as approved then. In that case, I think we can move on to the next item on the agenda. This is the chair's report for this last year, and I think the first thing I said on my report last year was it was a challenging year. Guess what? We've had another challenging year. I think I don't think there would be any other organisation that has come closer to holding a major conference and then not being able to hold it. If anyone will recall, the minister was walking to the podium to open the conference when we had to cancel it because of COVID potential COVID contamination at Te Papa. And that was obviously very disappointing to us, but we worked through that. And I think if if we can turn a cloud with a silver lining, we have the fact that we've been able to hold a lot more webinars and produce the get all the information and the papers out to everyone over the course of the year. Not quite the way we've wanted to do it, not in the important revenue raising way that we would have liked, as because TTEC is such a critical part of our funding arrangement. But we have actually managed to do pretty well with all the various activities. I think another highlight of the year is the fact that the Ministry of Transport has re-kicked off its Knowledge Hub. And we are working through how we can best work together with the Knowledge Hub to produce good value to our members and also meet the objectives of the Knowledge Hub. That's and I think we're seeing much more active activity across the sector with that. Another good part of the year is we are seeing increased effort and acknowledgement of the role of transport technology and actually helping solve the transport outcomes. It's whether it's how it's being mentioned in ministry strategies, the fact that the ministry's long-term briefing paper is going to be on the impact of autonomous vehicles. All those things are pointing to an uptick in opportunities for all our members, which is really good. Simon, do you want to whip to the next slide? As I mentioned before, we have focused on continuing to deliver value to our members throughout the year. And I think I've got to acknowledge two groups of people around that. One is our YTP team, and the other is our events team. And we've managed to get more events this year than we've ever had, plus partnered events, plus the TTEC reboot events. I think that the proof that we're doing that value is in the amount of new members that we are actually generating from across the area. And I'm going to get Armin to talk about that in a few minutes. An important part of what we do is our advocacy role. We've certainly been on the Climate Change Commission Transport Reference Group. We've commented on the National Land Transport Program and on the Ministry's long-term insights briefing. And we're seeing more opportunity to provide that advocacy role all the time. We're seeing a lot more activity around our websites, our website, considerable increase in website visits, another 10% increase, or a bit more than that, in our database subscribers, steady Twitter and LinkedIn, Twitter followers, and a 25% increase in our LinkedIn followers. YTP continues to be a highlight, and we'll hear more from Amy later on. And we continue to publish stories in EVs and Beyond magazine every month. So I think we've been pretty active, and I'd really like to thank everyone that's contributed to that. I'm now going to hand over to Armin, who's been looking after our membership drive this year. So Armin, up to you.
Thank you, Mike. And to kind of just start by saying that, the membership drive is a, I guess a collective effort, and big thanks as well to Simon McManus and Dave Rendell from Fulton Hogan for being part of the membership committee. So tēnā koutou katoa, and welcome everyone. In starting, I also wanted to re-emphasize and say big thanks to our members, acknowledging and appreciating the support, continued support from our renewing members, but also new support from those members that have recently, over the past year, come on board, which are on this slide. Without your support and continued support, ITS New Zealand would not be able to do what it does on a yearly basis. And I think that that's quite a testament to what we do. If we could compare this year and Mike alluded to this a little bit earlier, but I think if we compare this year to a vehicle that's on a journey, I think it would be quite fair to say that this year has had its fair share of turbulence and unexpected chicanes. So thanks for persevering with us through that. And I think at the same time, we've got some things to celebrate. So for me, I'd like to focus on the diversification and growth of our member categories. And we have had diversification and growth of particularly some of those. So mobility and automotive, information technology and services, and electrical and electronic engineering have had the most diversification and growth. And we also have a new member category for education and research, which has got 2 members currently in it and growing. The growth and diversification of our member base allows us to deepen and strengthen our ability to represent ITS within the wider sector and industry, and to connect, promote, support, and advocate on behalf of our members, which is something that we want to continue doing more of next year. So examples, I think some have already been provided, but we have engaged with government, academia, and with the wider industry, and so that's included with the Ministry of Transport, Waka, and with the Climate Change Commission. We've also engaged quite widely with industry, and we look forward to continued diversification and growth of our member base for the next year. So I'll hand it over to Amy now, who will give an update on YTP and what's been achieved this year, which contributed to membership.
Sorry, is it over to me or back to Mike, I think?
Yeah, I think it was back to me.
Okay, I'm just sorry, back to you, Mike.
Yeah. I think it's important that we look ahead at the coming year for us. Of course, we're going to be looking at another TTEC conference next year, and the thinking and planning for that is already underway. There is the ITS Asia Pacific Forum in Chengdu in 2022. And I think that a good area for all our members to focus on around how transport technology can contribute to both the Road to Zero initiatives that are going to be needed to get to the targets. And while the targets for transportation have only been identified at this stage and not locked in, it's clear that we're going to have to look at technology around how we can meet our COP26 obligations. Finally, I think it's been a wee while since we've held an international ITS conference of any size in New Zealand. And there is an opportunity for us to put forward a case to the ITS Asia Pacific for New Zealand to hold the 2024 forum. And that opportunity comes at the Chengdu forum. And I think that that would be some really good value for all our members, because then we can bring the ideas and the thinking to New Zealand, and also it'll be good for New Zealand because we can demonstrate our own ideas and initiatives at that in a much better way than having to travel all the way to Chengdu or Berlin or wherever else a World Congress may be held. So I think one of the challenges going forward for the new board and committee is to work out how we can put up our best case to do that, and how we can work with government to make that happen. Next slide, please, Simon. I do want to acknowledge some departing board members. First of all, Stephen Hewett, who has been on the board for 9 years, has seen the transformation from a completely volunteer board with no executive support to where we now have a more fundamentally organised approach to doing things, and are able to generate a lot more. A lot of that couldn't have been done without Stephen's hard work. And in the last 18 months, Stephen's also volunteered to be the president, and it's the president's primary role to represent us in the international forum. And while that means he hasn't had to travel as much as he would have, he has had to get up in the middle of the night for lots and lots of calls. I really think, Stephen, thanks very much for all your effort over the years. I know we'll continue to see more of you. You'll probably be writing some of the papers rather than judging them going forward, because that's been another very important part of what Stephen's been doing. Helen Fitt, who has been with us for the last, I think, 18 months, has brought a really refreshing academic eye onto what we can do and how we can do things, and also help with our diversification strategy and kept us honest around that. Amy, who along with Armin have been at the forefront of establishing YTP as a strong organisation it is now, and I am wish Amy all the best in travelling and her career, which is now just taking off and taking her away from being able to contribute as much as she'd like. And Emilio, who has been a valuable member of the board throughout as well. So thanks to all of those people, and we'll go to the next slide, I think, which is basically, I think that's the end of my report. We move on to Stephen, and we've just had word that the debate in Parliament is going longer than we expected, and the Minister will not be getting here. So this is the second time that we've almost had the Minister address you, and I apologise yet again for not being able to make that happen.
Thank you. Well, it's a big pity, because I would say I had the, you should say, in T-Tech in 2021, I got to give Mike your chair meeting, chair presentation, and then we watched that Minister couldn't give his presentation. Debut.
It's your fault.
My fault. That's why I'm leaving. Anyway, my pleasure. I should admit, my pleasure, and it has been my pleasure for a few of the T-Techs to organise and actually then manage the judging, as well as presenting the best paper and best presentation. So I'll get on with it. First, I like also, just before I start, I'd like to, because it takes quite a bit of effort to judge the papers, and so I'd like to thank the judges. We had Joe Cheng from Rangatahi put a hand up to do it. We had Doug Wilson from Auckland University as well, Helen Fitt, Armand, and from the Ministry of Transport, we had Roselle Thoreau as well put a hand up to participate in that. And without their help, it would be a very difficult job to judge those papers. So we'll start with papers. And look, the runner-up, I'm going to start with the runner-up and then the winner. I have to say it was very hard in terms of the runner-up. We had some two very good presentations that made it difficult. So the runner-up was effectively Eric Zuderveld in his presentation, how government fleets can use new technology to drive EV adoption. But it just, and we'll be giving out certificates to the runner-up and as well as the winner for both the paper and presentation. But I also like to just take a little moment also to kind of recognise Luke Fitzpatrick, because it was very close. He did a very good presentation, and it kind of really had to make a decision on it. But his presentation on Talanoa project, improving community equity with AI. The ones who listened to that presentation, they're voting, they really liked that presentation. And Luke works for Becca. But the winner, and both for his paper and for his presentation, was Matthew Ensel from Becca for forecasting the impact of mode shift to EV bikes and EV scooters. Now, the award, yes, is a certificate, but there is a award in terms of a free ticket for next year's TTEC conference. And so that will be winging its way to you, Matthew. And hopefully we will be able to have it, and I will be able to participate on the other side and listen to the presentations, not organising them. This leads us on to best presentation. And we had a large number of presentations across our theme. The runner-up to that presentation was Chris Rapson from AT, where he talked about Auckland Transport's journey with computer vision. It was a very good presentation. It's just how I learned a lot. The winner, though, and it was a large number you voted for, Aisha winner Purdue from Becca. She, in her presentation around autonomous vehicles and social equity, and Aisha's been working with me on developing the commercial framework for Rangatahi and Ministry of Transport. And so she talked about the social equity of autonomous vehicles. So congratulations to you, Aisha. Well done for that. And you will also be getting a certificate, both as including the runner-up, and you get a free ticket to next year's TTEC conference. It's me, Simon.
Great. Thank you. It's not
now,
quite you.
I'm back to me again, though. I just take 5 seconds while I find my report. I suppose I know, because I'm actually stepping down from the board after 9 years, and I have to say, as Mike said, I have seen massive changes with ITS New Zealand since those early days as a kind of volunteer network now team, and really just having a ITS summit where we developed and with Simon's help to create TTEC and the TTEC brand, as well as create the brand of ITS New Zealand with the introduction of our business plan to include academia as well as our youth team onto the thing, which they've now created YTP. So it's been quite an awesome couple of years. But and as you say, with what Mike said, I thought I'd get a bit of travel with being the president, but no, the outcome was a lot of Zoom meetings at godly hours. I think the worst was the World Congress at 4 o'clock in the morning. That was hard detail to actually wake up at that time. And I suppose in terms of I think that's kind of led to, with the COVID-19 pandemic, there's been a huge amount of disruption to the international conference scene around ITS. First on my block, though, and just in terms of my report, was the 2017 ITS Asia Pacific Forum. Now, that was supposed to be held in 2020, but because of the pandemic, it was postponed. And it was postponed to be in April this year. And it was to be in Brisbane, and effectively Asia Pacific organisations other than Australia really couldn't attend because of our lockdown protocols. But Australia was looking really good with Queensland not having any cases. But just before the conference, they had an outbreak. They did get under control before the conference, but ITS Australia had made that decision to go digital. They were going to have a kind of in-person, most of the people from Australia, as a digital, and with digital attendees from outside, they had to go to full digital. Unfortunately, I did attend the conference. because of the changing that and then having significantly more digital people coming on board, the platform didn't cope sometimes with the presentations and a number of people, and so you got kicked out a couple of times. But the presentations that I attended were very, very good, and it went along, I think, a long way in terms of promoting ITS in the Asia Pacific Forum. Moving along to the World Congress, the 27th ITS World Congress. That was to be held in Hamburg. I think the ITS communicated, well, this is going to be one of the first, kind of in terms of progression, was there going to be a lot of talk about autonomy and the role of autonomy in ITS. And we're all kind of looking forward to that. The problem was that the Asia Pacific countries, other than really Taiwan and Korea, and Taiwan and Korea were there because effectively they are looking to host the next ITS World Congress for Asia Pacific, and so they were attended, as well as some representation from China and Australia. So what we had was really 91% of the attendees were from Europe, only 2% from Asia Pacific, and 3% from America, and the remaining 4% were from other areas like Russia or South America, were not included in the Americas. Unlike the ITS Asia Pacific Forum, but due to the scale and the cost, Urtico weren't able to actually arrange it to be digital, not even the plenary sessions. They just said it was too costly for them to put that together, and too much of a problem for them. They had enough problems trying to organize the conference, and so it was not digital at all. But in spite of that, I suppose, and just going through in terms of the slide, no, they were able to get 13,000 participants. They had, the delegates were down, as you can say, because Asia Pacific and Americas weren't there in terms of delegates, but they certainly had a significant number of people from Europe in terms of exhibition visitors and exhibition personnel. So it was, they had filled up their exhibition space. So for them, it was a very successful conference. And they were able to continue with their innovation startup, which is something that started in Singapore, as well as their emerging leader program for student development, which Amy was part of in terms of Singapore's World Congress. And Mike kind of identified this, the 18th ITS Asia Pacific Forum will be held in Chengdu this year in April, between the 27th and 29th, with a theme, ITS Driving for a Better Life. Now, the call for papers are out at the moment, and so, but they have a deadline of the 1st of December. So if you're thinking about putting a paper, please do go to their website, and they'll show you the paper themes that give you access to the form to fill in. Not really difficult in terms of submitting the abstract by the 1st of December. Though, as China doesn't really have Christmas like we do, the abstracts need to be, the extended abstracts need to be, or they're going to accept them by the 31st of December, with the final paper due by the 1st of March. At the moment, China is locked down. In terms of the ITS board, Asia Pacific Board has been asking them around, what's happening with China in terms of opening up. Are they going to have a digital event? They are planning at the moment, assuming that the China border will open up by that time, and that we'll be able to fly and be there in person. They will be asking papers and presentations to be pre-recorded in case, and they are looking at the moment, around how they would hold a digital event on the basis that China's borders don't hold up. Because at the moment, if you do fly to China, you effectively have to quarantine for 2 weeks, then nearly another week. And if you move regions, so you had to go to Chengdu, there's no real direct flights, you would have to then also have another 2 weeks of quarantining in Chengdu before you could attend. So quite a large involvement in terms of time. The 28th ITS World Congress meeting will be held in Los Angeles. And as you would have known, that Los Angeles was going to hold the ITS World Congress. And it was just at that time, just before, no, just as the pandemic, the first part of the pandemic actually started, and we were having board meetings. This is the start of our board meetings online. LA were thinking that they were going to host it. It became quite apparent at that time they couldn't. So what the ITS World Congress did is they moved things around, changed the order, and now Los Angeles will host the 28th ITS World Congress, and the ITS World Congress, the 29th one in Chengdu, had been moved, so swapped around. That will be held on the 18th to the 22nd of September in 2022. The program themes is around equitability and seamless mobility, a kind of path to zero, vision zero, so around what we're doing around road safety in terms of how ITS would participate in that, technology around entry to last mile, something that New Zealand is looking at, intelligent, connected and automated transport, really extending on the work that's been done from Hamburg. I mean, organising successful policy and governance, business models and international cooperation. So TC204 in terms of that kind of cooperation, how do we actually get governments to work and build better business models for the development of transport technology. Again, a focus on sustainability and resilience, and then really digital infrastructure. So the new area around digital twins and things like that. There's a real with these new ITS World Congress, is still going to continue this theme around innovative startup competitions. It's been quite a interesting area for those countries, host countries, to promote those startups and get ideas off the ground and make some progress. Again, they're going to host the Emerging Leaders program for students. So another great program to kind of get those students involved and get younger people to be interested in technology or certainly around transport technology. One of the other ones that America's looking at is around this emergency responder day. So that's another area that they want to promote and how technology can play a role in that. As I kind of said, the 29th ITS World Congress in 2023 will be hosted in Shenzhou, China. And at the moment, so what in the last board meeting, effectively, because again, China doesn't recognize kind of our Western Christmas, it was they had their papers being submitted in January in 2023. There was a call to push that forward because it was difficult for us in the Western world to actually, in terms of our festive season, to spend our holidays writing papers. And so there was an ask to kind of move that forward to before Christmas. So we'll see. And certainly the person who takes over from me will keep you informed with Simon around those papers. And I suppose the last thing in terms of my paper is that around the hosting of the 19th ITS Asia Pacific Forum. Because of the pandemic, that's kind of been delayed, but there is an opportunity. They're now the papers, the application's out, and effectively, I know that ITS New Zealand is very keen to look with the government to put a hand up and host that. And that's one of the reasons why I got involved in ITS New Zealand right back some 9 years ago. Well, before that, 11 years ago when I got involved, but I then joined the board to help manage that that conference in New Zealand, which was a real success, and one of the, it kind of changed the kind of how those conferences were put together and the type of conferences we put together. So I look forward to hopefully seeing that in New Zealand in 2024. That's me, Simon, and Mike.
Thanks, Stephen. Just let's see if anyone wants to ask any questions of Stephen. Give a couple of minutes. Don't see any hands going up. So move on to the next item on the agenda. Thanks very much, Stephen. Great work again. Really appreciate it.
My pleasure, Mike.
Okay. This is a summary of where we're at the moment in terms of, I also hold the treasurer's hat, but I have to admit, I have to thank Simon for doing 98% of the legwork for me. So thanks, Simon. Really appreciate that. We run a pretty tight ship on around about that $130,000 a year mark. We usually aim to make $20,000 to $30,000 out of TTEC. Unfortunately, the last few years we've not done that. So we have chewed into some of our reserves over the last couple of years, and we've gone, for a while we went below our, what we try and hold back, and to be able to fund the bigger events of $100,000, we had to go below that because we hadn't been making the revenue from TTEC. But our membership income has been relatively steady. We have lost a couple of gold members, but the work of Armin in getting bronze and silver members in has made up that difference in pretty much. But we still need probably more members, particularly if we're going to position to hold the what is now quite a big conference in the Asia Pacific Forum. We are budgets, key numbers from the budget for next year really are, we are budgeting $24,000 of profit from TTEC, even though that we have, because we have refunded tickets on last year's event because it didn't hold, or partially refunded. There is quite a bit of revenue in advance, so that's why that's we're not budgeting as big a profit as we would normally do. We are budgeting about $20,000 a year for YTP, and this year we're planning on giving them a little bit more autonomy on how they will go about dealing with that. They have established an operating model, and which we've been working very closely with them on to make sure that the things that they do, that where we are supporting them, are consistent with ITS New Zealand's objectives. And if they do things that are in addition to those objectives, then they may have to seek funding from elsewhere as well, which I'm sure they'll do and do well. So I don't think there's anything we've had all the accounts audited, no major problems. So once again, quite happy to have any questions on the accounts, but if anyone has any questions first, and then we'll vote to accept the report.
So Mike, just jumping in here as well, just letting people know that in the chat they can find the financial report prepared by our accountants, NSA Tax, and so that needs to be tabled today, and so we can file that with the incorporated societies.
Yep, MB.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm just going to ask that anyone that wants to vote against this, please raise their hand or comment. Otherwise, we will take silence as assent. I'm not seeing any hands go up. Let's take silence as assent and move on to the next item. Thank you. This is Amy and Aman.
Kia ora, Mike, and tēnā koutou katoa. As Mike said, my name is Amy, and I'm currently on the ITSNZ board as a YTP ambassador. So I'm really pleased to say that Te Waka Rangatahi Young Transport Professionals has had a very successful year over the past year, despite a few setbacks due to COVID. At the last AGM, we announced our new YTP committee, who together have worked really hard on achieving our vision of diversifying the ITS industry by supporting our students, young professionals, and those who are just starting out in their transport careers. So I'd like to personally thank all committee members for their time, passion, ideas, and at times patience in bringing YTP to life. Some of our more notable achievements over the past year: our YTP membership numbers have now grown to over 170 individuals across New Zealand. This has been supported by the creation of a web page and Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram channels, which together have been used to promote our brand and events, share knowledge and ideas, and celebrate the successes of our members. So go give us a like or a follow if you'd like to stay up to date on those. As Mike mentioned before, we have written and had approved by the ITSNZ board a YTP operating model, which outlines the principles and practices for overseeing the YTP program within ITSNZ. We've organised and hosted 16 events on behalf of ITSNZ and YTP across Auckland, Wellington, Christchurch, and online. And these have included a mixture of networking functions, informational webinars, both of which have had really awesome speakers, a site visit, and our mentoring program launch. Which brings me to my next point. We launched a nationwide mentoring program this year, which provides support to our YTP members by matching them with a fantastic ITSNZ mentor. How cool is that? So I'm incredibly proud of everything that YTP has achieved to date, which means it's not going to be easy for me to say goodbye. As Mike mentioned, I've made the difficult decision to step down from my role as YTP ambassador at this AGM. While the last 2 years have been an absolute blast, I no longer have the time that I'd like to give to the group and feel that the timing's right to give someone else the opportunity to lead YTP. So I'd like to take this moment to personally thank the ITSNZ board and members, the YTP committee and members, and of course my fellow YTP ambassador Armin for their support and belief in me over the past 2 years. It's been an incredible learning experience, which I'd highly recommend to anyone looking to develop their leadership skills. So thank you to everybody and all the best. I'm now going to pass over to Armin, who will provide some insight into YTP's plans for the next year and give thanks on behalf of YTP to all our supporters.
Thanks so much, Amy. And I just wanted to start again by wishing you only the best for your future endeavours. You've contributed a great deal over the course of the past 2 years in setting up YTP and making it the network and the platform that it is today. I also wanted to reiterate the thanks to the ITS New Zealand board for their continued support, our ITS New Zealand members and YTP members for their support, and the YTP committee. Amy, Stephanie, Danush, Amelia, Caitlin, Sam, Shannon, and Alvin. This YTP would not have been possible, and we wouldn't have been able to do all the things we've done without your continued hard work and dedication. That's a real testament to where we are today. For the year ahead, we are planning to further establish YTP as part of the ITS New Zealand umbrella, and for ITS New Zealand as being the peak body for ITS and future transport technology in New Zealand. We're looking to focus and continue to focus on what it takes to make New Zealand and our transport sector more sustainable, safe, equitable, and efficient, amongst other things. So we've got a number of things to look forward to, and that includes the continuation, as Amy's mentioned, of our mentoring program, including some associated events coming up in the new year. And we are also going to continue to strengthen our channels across our media and website. We also are planning a YTP newsletter, and so more will be announced on that in the new year. And we have some other exciting activities and events coming up. And that's all in line with the ITS New Zealand objectives and vision. So to finish off, I just wanted to say that we've opened up committee roles for those that are either have left or are leaving in the near term future from our YTP committee. And I'll post the link to our application form in case you haven't received that. An email was sent out to all of our YTP and ITS New Zealand members, but I will just post that into our chat for this AGM. Hopefully you'll receive that. So do apply. It's a fantastic opportunity to get involved in the sector and with ITS New Zealand, and to help ITS New Zealand accomplish its vision and objectives. And we look forward to having you join us if you're interested. So thank you. And am I handing it back over to you, Mike?
Yep, that's right. Thanks, Armin and Amy, and just like to reiterate what I mentioned earlier on in my report, just what a great job these guys have done in terms of getting us to getting YTP where it is, and how the YTP activity has really tied in very well with the wider ITS New Zealand activity to produce a pretty strong brand for us and allow us to grow membership and value to it, our members. So thanks again, guys, and I really look forward to continuing to work with you next year. So we've really got one more item on the agenda, is that right, Simon? And that is just to, we called for nominations for the new board, and we got enough nominations, but not too many. So we don't need to hold an election. And I can announce that the board members are as shown on your screen at the moment. There's actually, for some of them, particularly me, you'd probably be better off without that, but there's what they all look like. I'd like to welcome all the new members. Really looking forward to working with you. I think we've got some really good challenges coming up. I know that it's quite often customary to have a meeting straight after this, but we have actually decided not to do that at this point. We will try and hold a meeting in the next 1 to 2 weeks. But in holding that meeting, I just want to talk in preparing for that meeting, I want to talk very briefly about the roles that we're going to be looking for some volunteers or people to be volunteered for from the board. The positions that we have on the board is the chair, who basically looks after our board meetings, the general New Zealand activity, the president that Stephen's been holding for a long time now, looking after the international activity and representing us internationally, a treasurer, a chair of a membership committee, an events committee, And I think if we are to put our best foot forward for the ITS Asia Pacific Forum in 24, we're going to need a team and someone specifically focused on that as well. So we will send a note out to you all outlining those types of positions and calling our first board meeting where we will agree to who will be doing those at that meeting. Quite happy to have any questions from anybody, in particular from the incoming board. No one's putting their hands up. Okay, well, welcome aboard to the new board, and look forward to working with you over the next 2 years. And I think we will continue to see some great work as we go forward. So with that, I would like to bring the meeting to a close. Simon, is there anything else I have to do that properly? No. I will apologise on behalf of the Minister again, but we will seek to get maybe a little bit more time than with the Minister next time, and try and get something at a time when there isn't something under urgency in the House. I think he owes us.
He does indeed.
Yeah. Hey, thanks everyone. Unless anyone's got any comments, I think we can draw it to a close. And thanks, Stephen, again for all the work you've put in over the last wee while.
And good luck to the new board, and good luck to hopefully hosting a ITS Asia Pacific Forum in 2024. So.
Yeah, that could be a lot of fun. Thank you.
Thank you.
With that, I declare the meeting closed.
Yeah, bye for now. We'll see you soon.